Good afternoon, everyone. As Corey said, I am Amy Sweetwood, and I am the Director of Graduate Medical Education. I have been with Kadlec since 2000, and up until my current role, I was the Director of Education, Academic Services, and Volunteer Services. And so I did that for 13 years prior to moving into my new role. Today with me, I have two of our residents joining us, and because they see patients, they're going to be staggered. So I'll let Dr. Sachek introduce himself, and then so you don't find it an interruption, probably about 1:30 or so, Dr. Tayab Tahir will be joining me, and Dr. Sachek will be leaving, but I'll
All right, so a quick hi and bye, I guess, really fast. Like she said, my name is Stanley Sachek. I'm originally from Arizona. I do apologize for this little cold that I have. I have 3 small children who love sharing colds with me, so hopefully it'll pass relatively quick. So how I got here is I kind of married into the area. My wife's family's in Kennewick, and so we just bought a house in Pasco, so we're pretty excited to be here in the Tri-Cities. We love it here. And I'm a first-year resident, and I think Amy's going to describe more so about like what the residency program is and how many years it is and things. And so I'm at the end of my first year, so I have another 2 years of training. It's a total of 3-year residency program for us. So that's a little bit about me.
And the remote. Okay, get the remote started. So just to give you some background on residency, people often wonder what does it take to be a family physician, and I will let you know that each type of physician goes through a different type of residency. So for example, general surgery residency is a 5-year residency. Family medicine is a 3-year. Obstetrics is a 4-year residency. So they're all different. So what we're training at Kadlec is family medicine physicians. So to put a face to that, we are now we have 3 classes that are currently working and seeing patients. Kadlec is was accredited to have 6 residents, up to 6 residents in every single class. And so you can see class of 2018, those are who are graduating here in the next month. We have the 5 there. Class of 2019 are 6 residents where we finally added females, and not that we added females, I'll explain the rank process later if there's time. They have to select us. We do want females to come, but they have to want to come here. And they did, class of 2019. Class of 2020, where Dr. Sachek is, in this class, they are our 3rd class, and so that's what we refer to as a full complement. And so these residents that are in their first year, in their 2nd year, and in their 3rd year are seeing patients both at the family medicine residency clinic and then also in the hospital and in many other community locations. This is what we would refer to as our intern class or incoming class. These 6 individuals will arrive June 13th for orientation, and they will begin their 3-year journey here with us in Kadlec and in our community. So just a little face of who they are and where they're coming from. Well, where they're coming from, just to let you know, the first 2, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Boozer, are from the Portland area, both went to Oregon State Health Science University. Dr. Farley is from Yakima. Dr. Kraus is from Tacoma. Dr. Robbins went to Loma Linda but has family ties here locally. And then Dr. Smiley is from Pasco. And so one of our missions has been to recruit locally, and hopefully they have ties to the region or to the Northwest with the hopes that they stay here and continue to practice here. Because as Corey said, it is difficult to get in to see your doctor, so we want more primary care providers here. So the pipeline of how do you become a doctor is you go through elementary school and graduate from high school, and then you go through 4 years of undergraduate degrees. Dr. Sachek, what was your undergraduate degree? Biology. Yeah, biology, biochemistry, microbiology. Those are a lot of the undergraduate degrees that they have, though I think physics is in there as well. Exercise science, yeah, stuff like that. And after they graduate with their bachelor's degree, they then apply for medical school, and that's a whole nother bunch of tests that they need to do and get in to qualify to apply to medical school, and then they apply to medical school and hope to get in there. In medical school, traditionally, the first 2 years are in the classroom, as you would think that it would be in the classroom. And then the third year and the fourth year is when they go out and do their clinical rotations. And so they go all over, excuse me, sorry, allergies, the U.S., and they'll do a family medicine rotation and obstetric rotation. Where did you do your rotations?
So I did most of my medical school training in Bakersfield, California, and Los Angeles a little bit. But my medical school was headquartered out of Miami, Florida, so I also did a few months down there as well, and so kind of all across the country. So,
And so when you're doing,
so our third year of medical school they're all set rotations for you. So you do things, you do surgery, you do OBGYN, you do family medicine, you do internal medicine, you do psychiatry, you do all of the specialties. And then your fourth year, you kind of get to tailor it to what your interests are and things that you enjoy doing. So for me, I did mostly stuff related to family medicine because I knew that's what I wanted to go into. And then tried to get more experience with things with specialists, so things like hematology, oncology, things with kidney doctors, things with orthopedic specialists as well. So.
And let me just ask, when you do those rotations, whether they're in Miami or Baker City or wherever, do you have to travel to those locations, right, and stay there? So, and is that on your own dime?
Yeah, most of it. So so every medical school is kind of different in their format of how they do it. For the most part, most schools have housing for you or something established in the area. With my school, it was great for single students, but like I said, I have 3 small children and a wife, and so that was all part of our educational fund, so to speak, or the loan that we use to get ourselves through school. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I think a lot of people don't realize the burden that medical students go through to do the rotations, and then addition to then go apply for residency programs all across the nation, and I'll explain that a little bit more too. So then they go through their medical school years and graduate, and it's in that fourth year then they decide to apply to different types of residencies. So people will often, as I heard from some applicants, cast a wide net, and so they'll maybe apply to a family medicine residency and a pediatrics residency and a psychiatry residency and maybe OB, just hoping they get in somewhere. And if you're very focused, like Dr. Sachek, and know that that's what you want family medicine, then maybe he just only interviewed at family medicine residencies. On average, based on our national information that we get, people that apply to 8 or more residencies will typically get into a residency. But 8 or fewer, then they often don't match that first year with it. And so, did you match the first year? Good job. He matched the first year, so that's good. But it doesn't always work out that way. And then they go through for family medicine 3 years of residency. And if it were a different type of residency, it could be more. And then after they're getting ready to graduate, like our graduates that I showed you up there, they then take their exams to be able to be eligible to take the national exams for their designation. It's a lot of information, I know, and now you feel like you went through medical school, but you didn't. But the residents who are graduating have all passed their board exams and will be able to, once they graduate, be board eligible. So that's nice to know that we actually trained them over the last 3 years. So the mission of Kadlec's Family Medicine Residency is to be able to prepare physicians to be leaders in the practice of comprehensive, compassionate family medicine of the highest quality and improve access in northeastern Oregon as well as southeastern Washington. And the reason that our kind of geography is a big scope that we're trying to reach out to is because, one, it's hard to get physicians in this area, and a lot of the physicians that are in the area are getting ready to retire. And typically, wherever a resident does their training, they will stay within 100 miles of that area. So the thought was, is if we could train residents in our region, then more than likely they would stay in our region. So let me back up to this for just a second. In doing so, Jim Hall and I, many of you might know Jim Hall, did a lot of legislative work leading up to having the residency. And because of Representative Haler, who's local here, Larry Haler, they were able to get a bill passed in the Ways and Means Committee to support residency training. They had already supported medical schools with WSU expansion and Pacific Northwest University school expansion, but that really creates a bottleneck, and so we wanted support for residencies. And I'll show you why. When you look at this slide here, this is a little bit old, so the numbers might be outdated. I think this was 2010 or 2012. But this is a study that shows how many physicians there are per 10,000 population. So these are physicians already board certified, already practicing. And you see that there is a disparity, that the West Side has 25.7 per 10,000, and Eastern Washington has a hard time recruiting that, and we only at the time had 18.5 physicians per 10,000 population in Central and Eastern Washington, okay? Now if you take that down a step further, I'm going to jump back. This slide right here shows these are physician residents, such as Dr. Sachek, per 100,000 population. So not the physicians that are already practicing, those in training. And so when you look at Central and Eastern Washington, we only had 6.8 residents, physicians in training, per 100,000 population. It's funny to say residents versus residents. And I forgot to mention, thank you, Corey, for jogging my memory. If you have questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask, because it is complicated, but I'm trying to lay the foundation here for you. Any questions so far? Yeah. Yes, good.
Slide or two back, you indicated that residents are not practicing medicine.
That was wrong. So he said that a slide or two back, I said that residents are not practicing medicine, and that's incorrect. Thank you for that. Residents are practicing medicine. They are seeing their own patients. They're signed off by a physician who is experienced, but they are seeing their own patients. I appreciate you bringing that up. Did that help? Okay. Any others? Yes, sir.
You mentioned board certified, so all of the residents or all of the practicing physicians are board certified. Is that necessarily true?
At Kadlec, yes, that is true that they are board certified. That's not true of all private practice or other health systems. Some people who have not been board certified in the state may have been grandfathered in based on when they started, because maybe it was a new requirement. And I can only speak to Kadlec's credentialing, that they need to be board certified or board certified eligible. So for example, Dr. Sachek, when he graduates and he'll have passed his boards, then he'll be board certified eligible to then take it through the American Family Physicians. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Others? Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way or means for pre-med students to visit the residency program here?
That's a great question. So in my prior life, before graduate medical education, when I was in the academic services role, Kadlec is really supportive of all levels of education and that workforce pipeline. So we do have medical students here, but we also have a high school program called Healthcare Experience that allows high school students that are interested in all types of healthcare careers to come and experience those. And that, I think, has an application process on the main Kadlec webpage that students would actually apply for, interview for, and get into through the summer. It's like a week-long camp.
The ones that are already graduated from college but are pre-med, can they visit?
If they're pre-med, they can visit. There's some certain criteria, and a person that oversees undergraduate medical education, Brenda Porco-Smith, and that's who they would contact. And she's in the, look at that for her under the education department. But I can get that information to Corey, and she can get it to you. Other questions? Okay, we'll continue on. Thank you. So I wanted to show you this slide. This is, again, old. It's 2010, but what you see are two lines here. It dates back to 1952 and then goes up until 2010. And at the far end, at 1952, let's see if it shows. Yeah, there we go. This it's a purple line, and it says the total number of PGY1 applicants. So PGY is postgraduate year after medical school in the first year. How many positions there were available. And the green line below that is the total number of applicants who applied to get into residency. And you can see that in 1980, mid-80s, then there was a switch, and that there were more applicants than there were positions. And there was a federal regulation that put a capitation on programs of how many residents they could accept and get paid for. Many residencies across the nation have a lot more residents than they actually get paid for. And so that's why the switch is there's been a hold on how many residency slots there are. And that was one of the reasons Kadlec decided to start the residency. To get new federal dollars, the only way to do that is to start a new program. And Rand Wortman at the time, who was our former CEO, was really instrumental in really all levels of education regarding to healthcare, nursing, et cetera. And the only way that we could get the program started or to grow residents was to start our own program. So in a similar way, we were committed to Columbia Basin College and their nursing program. He and the board were very committed to growing our own, if you will, with family medicine residency, because we knew that that would benefit the region. And he said, we really don't need to. We have no trouble recruiting, but it's the right thing to do for our region. And so that's why our mission was not just for Kadlec alone, but for all of southeastern Washington and northeastern Oregon. And so still right now, there is still a need. We had over 1,000 applicants last year for the 6 positions. And that is a cycle that happens. And then people, if they don't get in their first year, they apply again. And every year it just keeps growing that way. And there was probably, I don't want to quote the number, but it was close to probably 10,000 applicants who did not get into a residency because there's not enough slots nationally. Questions on that? Okay.
That's after they've gone through 3-4 years of medical school?
Yeah, that's after they've completed all their medical school, all their interviewing, traveled all over the country, and have accumulated quite a bit of debt. Most medical student graduates enter a residency with about $250,000 in debt. It is really discouraging. And so getting in is paramount to, the only way you can practice medicine in America is to do a residency. Yes? They're still practicing medicine while they're doing their residency? Ask your question again. I'll get back to you.
Back up to about your first or second slide.
Do you want
Let's see real quick.
Dr. Sejak, maybe able to
I think I know this part right here, right?
Without a residency, a medical graduate cannot practice medicine.
Right, so that's where the independently practice it. So as a resident physician, we still practice medicine. We see the full scope of everything in family medicine, from brand new newborns all the way up through, you know, whoever may be there. It's just we can't do it independently. We have to be under supervision of another actual independent provider under their medical official license. So in medical school, we still have to do national licensing board exams throughout school. There's 3 major steps of them. I just completed my 3rd one. And then after you get past all of these national exams, then that's where you get into more of these independent exams of things like whatever specialty you may be in. So for me, family medicine, there's a National Board of Family Medicine that you have to pass their exam. And then for the state of Washington, you have to pass their family medicine exam. So we're used to being tested, taking tests by this point in time. But to actually do it on our own and stay locally in the area, whether it's to join a group or start our own group or things like that, to actually, you know, develop our own practice, that we have to go through all these steps to get there. So part of our residency training, what was that? To do it independently, correct, completely independently. So that's nice about the residency program is we always have someone else that's double checking our work and making sure that we're doing things that are appropriate according to the latest data that's come out, according to any local studies that have been done. I mean, everything, you know, education related, making sure that we're doing the right steps for the safety of the patients and everything. So did that help clarify that a little bit? Yes? Okay. And there was another question? Yeah.
What happens to all these people that can't get into the residency program?
That's a great question. And there are opportunities that people will continue to try to get into residencies year after year. And unfortunately, each residency has their own criteria to let people in. And so some people I know go into research, and so they may have MD behind their name, but maybe they're not a licensed practicing physician. Do you have friends or know people that are in that situation yet? Maybe?
I know I do have friends that. I do have some friends that aren't in a residency program currently, and so they're waiting till the next year to reapply again. It's kind of a vicious cycle of things sometimes with that. And right now, sometimes they work with insurance companies to help with that. Some of them work with other education things, like helping develop other students, whether that be in pre-med programs or be in other programs. So
they could wind up not being practicing physicians.
exactly, yeah.
And just to repeat that, he said that they could wind up not being practicing physicians.
Are these residency positions competed for by doctors that are trained overseas?
So that's a good question. So there are medical schools all across the world, right? And so people from around the world will apply for American residency slots for residencies, because we're the only ones I think that require it. Maybe Canada and the UK does too, but I don't know. I can't speak to them. And so when you look at our class and our residents that we have, we really wanted it to mirror what our current medical staff looks like in our region. And we have a great, you know, diversity as far as physicians who have practiced or who did their medical school overseas, but then did their residency here. And when you look at our graduating class, we have, I think all but one practiced or did medical school overseas. But one of them, like Dr. Clark, for example, all of them born and raised here in the U.S., but it went to the Caribbean medical schools and then are doing the residency here. Dr. Clark is from Lewiston, Idaho, and so he graduated from there, went to University of Idaho, and then got into one of the Caribbean schools, and then came back here to do residencies close to home. So it's interesting how that all works. And for the Caribbean schools, just to let you know, in those Caribbean islands, there are 66 medical schools, but we only accept schools who are accredited by the U.S. Licensed Credentialing Medical Education, LCME, and there are only 6 of those in the Caribbean schools out of those 66. So it's kind of a vetting process as you look through everybody that's applying, and so we make sure, okay, do they meet the schools? Do they have ties to the U.S.? What were their step scores? What were their grades? What are their aspirations? So all those things we're looking at as we're going through those 1,000 applications that we have. So we're going to go for it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, covered that one. Okay, so family medicine rotations. Often people think family medicine physicians are just seeing patients in the clinic, and that is true. They're actually having their own patient panel that's developing in the family medicine residency clinic, and they have the oversight of the experienced physician who will sign off on their charts and sign off on their medications and their education plans. But in addition, they have all these rotations that they also have to do. So if anyone is being tried to be seen in the residency clinic, and you think that your doctor is going to be there Monday through Friday, doctor meaning doctor resident, is going to be there Monday through Friday, they're not. The first years and second years, I think, now coming up, will have 2 half days a week that they see their own patients in clinic. And the other part of the time, they're on one of these rotations. So they're in the hospital doing adult inpatient med, or they're on obstetrics delivering babies, or they're at an outpatient clinic for pediatrics, because family medicine needs to learn everything about everybody. And it's the biggest scope of knowledge that they have to learn. Yes, question?
I see dermatology up there.
Right there.
Where is it?
It's down here in the electives. And actually Yeah, and since we've made this slide, there have been changes as far as required rotations. And even though, they're going to do a dermatology, say, rotation, we're still doing it in the clinic. They're still seeing pediatrics. They're still seeing oncology in the clinic, too. It's just that focused education in that block schedule. Okay, other questions? So while they're going through all this, and this is a course over the course of 3 years, and they're still seeing their own patients, and so sometimes, if Dr. Sachek has been seeing a mom who then is about to deliver, he may have his own patient scheduled, say, this afternoon, but if his patient then went into labor, he'd have to leave, go to the hospital, and deliver. So seeing a physician in a residency is a little bit, can be a little bit challenging, but what we've set up is that there are teams to take care of you. So Dr. Sachek, are you on the spring team? Yeah. So we set up our clinic into seasonal teams, and we did seasons because we joke about the seasons of residency. There's graduation season, there's interview season, there's rank season, and so we're just like, well, let's just go with seasons. Now the caveat is we did just have a patient call and say, well, I'm on the winter team. Does that mean I can only be seen in the winter? No. We'll see you all year long. And so he's on the spring team. So if he was unavailable, there would be another resident or another experienced physician or another nurse practitioner to take care of the patient. So we're always there 7 days a week to take care of people. But when you look at all these rotations, 5 days a week. Not 7 days a week, sorry. Thank you.
We're on call for the 7 days a week, but
they are on call. Yeah, residents actually have a work hour, duty hour requirement that they cannot work more than 80 hours a week, and they have to have 1 day off in 7 days. So essentially they work 6 days a week. And so residency is a very intense time. And they have to watch all their hours, and we keep track of where they are and what they're doing. So it's a pretty intense time. Yes, 2 questions.
Do you get assigned to a physician? Do you get assigned to a physician? And then if he can't or she can't see it, he goes to another one? And then is that other physician familiar with the patient then?
So yeah, to repeat the question, he's asking as far as who would a patient be assigned to, and so to answer your question, yes, I could be assigned to Dr. Sachek. He could be my primary care provider, but then if he's not able to help me because he's delivering a baby, then I would see somebody else on his team or even outside the team if there was nobody on the team available. They'd be familiar, yeah. With your situation, right? And because we're all on Epic, Kadlec is on Epic, and that's our electronic health record. Whoever is caring for you has the opportunity to look at past notes and see things. But what's nice about the team situation is that even if I didn't see Dr. Sachek and I saw one of his counterparts, the medical assistants and the RNs and the faculty who have oversight, the experienced physicians, are all supporting him and are familiar with the patients as well. Does that help? And you had a question?
Why are your graduating classes so short or so small? It seems like we see more PAs than MDs.
Yeah.
That's a concern for me.
Yeah.
And when I see 5, only 6, that doesn't seem right.
Right.
My MD, my primary care, took off for Seattle. And then to try to find another MD.
Right. It's hard. Yeah, so the question was, why are we graduating so few residents when there are so many physician assistants or nurse practitioners graduating out there? The criteria for a program to be accredited, and it's through, this is a long word, so it's the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education, which is ACGME, which is an international accredits programs to train both MDs and DOs. DOs are osteopathic and MDs are allopathic. So we got accredited, Kadlec did, and applied for a 666 program. And it's based on the number of physician faculty you have and the number of preceptors you have to take care of them. So you have to have 1 full-time faculty for every 6 residents that you have, and you can't count the program director. So there's these criteria. So I sit on the national GME initiative, trying to get things changed at a federal level. But the challenge is, since there are federal dollars tied to graduate medical education, there's it's a difficult thing, and they don't want to invest more dollars in it. So that's why Kadlec was decided to take the risk and the financial risk to start a residency here, because most programs can't and don't have the funds or the volume of patients or the faculty support to do that. And it's a challenge, but we're doing what we can. And I'll go into that a little bit more. Did you have a question?
Something she just said, if he's my doctor,
Right.
and he's not there, I'm going to see someone on
Mhm.
his team. Well, if he decides to go to Seattle, why wouldn't I be assigned to someone on his team? To replace him?
Right. So we don't know where they're going to go until they graduate.
No, I don't mean that. He's my doctor here.
Yes.
He takes off for Seattle,
Right.
like her doctor.
Uh-huh.
And now she's having a hard time finding a doctor. Why wouldn't she be assigned to someone on her team?
No, that's what we would do. So her question is if Dr. Sachek decides to leave and go to Seattle, like this lady's physician did, wouldn't we reassign them? That's a great question. That's actually what's happening now. So with our graduating residents who are getting ready to graduate here at the end of June, letters are being sent to their patient panel saying, you're still on the spring team, and here's who you're going to report to, and if you want somebody different on a different team, or that's fine too. But we make sure that their care is not dropped, the patient's care is not dropped. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to keep going on for a little bit. One other thing, just to let you know, and this is really on my end, and so there's the program side and there's the clinic side. This is the program side. So for the residents to graduate and to be eligible to sit for boards, and they have to see a certain number of patients. And the ACGME requires that they see 1,650 patients in the clinic over a 3-year time period. Beyond that, then we have to break it down and then watch how many, at the residency clinic, how many children under the age of 10 did they see? Because they're required to see 165 at least. How many deliveries did they have? How many patients in the ER did they see? And so from the residency program or the graduate medical education program, we are tracking all these things for every single resident. How many procedures did they log? And if you think back to school, think back to when you were in high school or even elementary, and you're tracking the progress. The residency clinic and the residency program is an academic educational process. So we need to make sure that they are progressing to the point that we would feel that they are going to be safe to practice independently and care for the American public. So if the residents get into trouble and they're not either documenting correctly or they're not being professional, we're coaching them every single point along the way, and that's why faculty is so crucial to be there to help them. It's not just the seeing patients alone. Physicians, they've done study after study that how they are trained during residency is how they will practice the rest of their career. Their patient safety numbers don't get better, their documentation doesn't get better, their quality and cost containment doesn't get better. So this is our first year that we're actually graduating, so we set the bar pretty high and we've been pretty strict with them and trying to guide them, and at the same time still developing and growing. So we've had some growing pains and some bumps and bruises along the way, and we're finally in our new building. But these are all the things that in the last 3 years that we have been striving for and getting to, and the reason why behind it. So the cycle of residency never ever stops. They graduate, they keep coming. It's just a kind of whitewater rafting circle there that keeps going. You have to go, don't you? Okay.
So I have to step out. Just wanted to say thank you for having me. If you do have more questions about the residency program or things like that, feel free to ask us. We're more than happy to talk about it, or you can come see us in clinic if you need to. We're always accepting new patients. We always, has been brought up, we always have someone there covering. So even if you can't get in to see that particular physician that you're wanting, there's another physician there that can help you. So thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No, I'll show you our building here in just a minute. We have a central formal location. Yeah. Do you have a question for Dr. Sachek specifically?
He might be interested in this one.
Okay.
what kind of post-residency setup have you guys got? Any?
None yet.
I realize that the normal doctors who are in practice are private, and you guys are still in school. It's the same thing we did when I taught school. For 28 years, I kept bringing up students, raising them, monitoring them, and all of that stuff. So I guess my question comes down to the practicing physicians. There seems to be a new method of the practicing physicians bringing in new residents. One of my grandsons is a typical example. He gets talking to the specialist over in Olympia, and everything's going hunky-dory. He's meeting the patients, he's doing all of this stuff, he's picking out a lot for a house, the guy's ready to take him in. Okay, then at the last minute, he brings in the consultants, the lawyers, and the accountants, and all of a sudden, you get into this practice where he originally thought that the original doctor was talking about, this is going to be a shoe-in.
Yeah.
So the lawyers and accountants come out with, well, you can get into the practice, it will cost about $600,000, $750,000.
Right.
And here this kid is, he's already got the $200,000 in debt that he was talking about. And so I'm wondering, how do we practice it? Discuss this a lot with my GP too. How do you associate your program with practicing doctors and say, you can't do this business the way you used to do it?
Right.
You know, if you had 1,000 patients, you base the cost of breaking into your practice on that many.
Right.
These kids cannot afford this $600,000 to break into your practice. Now they got $200,000 in school.
Right.
So how do you tie in
Right.
with these practicing physicians when they're on the way out?
Yeah, that's good. Stanley, I can answer that if you, do you have insight to it, or? Okay. So it's a good question. It's one thing that we're looking at actually within our own Kadlec system. Healthcare has changed really in the last 3 to 5 years so significantly that it's really been hard as a hospital administrator to even keep up with the changes. So the residents, as they're graduating, are all free agents, and they can go wherever, and we are not allowed to contract and tell them, you can come into residency, but you have to work here at Kadlec. That's illegal to do. We're not allowed to do that. So it's up to them as far as where they want to go. I think a lot of those private practices saying that you want to buy into this partnership type of deal are kind of going by the wayside. It's just because it's hard for general practitioners to have their own oversight and quality metrics and get federal funding dollars, and that's why a lot of them are joining health systems. I know Three Rivers Family Medicine, where Dr. Isaacson came from, and he helped start, and Dr. Lawrence is still at. They're one of the very few standing still primary care physicians. But those shoe-in type of things, that's a little bit challenging. And so for postgraduate, we're trying to educate the residents so that they're aware of the contracts and the legal part. We have our recruiters and our legal team come in and talk to them, even though we know they may not even stay at Kadlec, to help them be aware when they go out and start talking to other programs. So we're doing our part to help the residents prepare as they go out there of what to look for and what options there are. But it is kind of all across the gamut right now for primary care providers and what they're being recruited for. I've heard of student loans being paid off for 7 years, which is a huge number and not normal. I think not normal historically, but it's becoming more so. I know of primary care physicians who are being offered $400,000 to $600,000 a year, where most family medicine docs are maybe making $170,000 or maybe $200,000. But there's a shift and change happening because of there's a need for primary care, and the pendulum has swung back from specialists now back over to primary care. So I don't really have an answer as far as why that happens. We're not seeing that as much here in the Tri-Cities just because of the changing economy and the change of health care. But it is frustrating when you are the resident and have invested a time in with this relationship and patients. And we're trying to be very transparent with our own residents and set them up for success for that post-graduation and wherever they go.
So the subject itself then is sort of out in the blue. It's not like you guys can associate with, say, the AMA and then the AMA kind of direction the residents as they finish school and all of that. You're sort of separated. There's not a
We're a
clear
little.
time.
We're a little separated just because AMA would oversee all specialists, and so we tie more with the AAFP, which is the American Academy of Family Physicians, and get guidance from them. It's a resource that all the residents have access to, and then we use them for guidelines as far as what they have to do through that. And there's been changes at the GME level or ACGME level of what's required, because a few years ago, quality indicators, professionalism, leadership, systems-based processes weren't part of their criteria of their training. It was just really patient care and medical knowledge. So everything is shifting as we're doing this training. For us, it's actually changed every single year. We've had to change the curriculum as we go. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have a solid answer for you. Dr. Sachek, thank you. Appreciate it. So this circle of life, circle of residency here, we'll start with June. What's happening is advancement and graduation. So advancement means Dr. Sachek will move from a first-year resident into a second-year resident. And so what that means is his appointment times will get shorter, and just to let you know. So the R1s have the longest appointments. They're about an hour. And then when they move into the second year, they go down to 40-minute appointments because it takes time. And what typically happens in the residency clinic is if I were the resident and I go in to see you and you're my patient and we talk and you tell me what's going on and I say, okay, great, this is what I think I'm going to do, but I'm going to go talk with Dr. Carlson about it. And so then I go out and I talk with Dr. Carlson, who's my preceptor. She's a seasoned physician. And I cover, this is a gentleman, he's come in, here's his history, here's what he's in for today, and here's what I think the plan of care should be. And she goes, that's pretty good, Amy. You might want to think of these 6 other things that you missed. She says it a lot nicer than that. And then depending on the patient, you know, in my year of experience, then she would either come back in with me or I'd go back in if it were something fairly minor. And so that's the 2 sets of eyes that you have always when you're seeing patients. And so at advancement, the R1s become the R2s become the R3s, and now this year for the first time, our R3s will graduate. And so they'll graduate and go on to their careers. At the same time, our intern class, that one class of 2020 that will be here in June, will start going through orientation. They need to learn how to do EPIC. They need to learn how to do ACLS and BLS or CPR type stuff. We're teaching them all those things. Most interns, most new residents have never had a career. They have been in school a long time. And so they have not been able to gain the skills, basic skills that they need, and we want to get everybody and make sure everybody's up to speed. And so we actually assess their skill level on, you know, how they think they were doing with procedures or different things that they're doing to see what experience we have. And then we tailor a plan, an individualized learning plan for that resident, because they all come new and variable, right? So that's what's happening in June. In July, we're doing the direct observations of the R1 class and making sure they're safe and find out what they know. And then in July, we actually go and we start recruiting for the next class and the next year and start talking to fourth-year medical students and say, hey, consider us, you know, because there's programs all across the nation. In September, that's when all the applications are released, and so that's when we see, is September 15th always, the 1,000+ applications that come for our 6 positions. In October, all 3 levels of residents will take the end training exams, and that's how we can assess how they're doing year after year. And then we start interviews, and we do interviews every week, except for holiday weeks, from October through January. And we have about 10 applicants, each interview dinner, and so it's about 100, sometimes 130 people that we're interviewing. So of those 1,000 people that apply, we send out 200 and some odd invitations as they meet our criteria, and then interview around 100, and then rank them. And so that's what happens in February is we rank them, and then in March we then find out who we've matched with. And what's also happening in that January, February timeframe is that we've had 6 months with each class as they've progressed, and then we reassess them and go, okay, how are you doing? And we either move them forward or not. So that's what's happening. And then in March, that's when we find out who we've matched with, and we start onboarding that new intern class and credentialing, and then it starts all over again. Questions? Yes, sir.
Are any of your 6 graduating residents staying at Kadlec?
That's a great question. The answer of our graduates are they're not staying at Kadlec. We have one that is staying in Benton City, and the other one that is going to Lewiston, and the other ones are going home, like basically to their hometown, back to their hometowns in the U.S. That has been one of our criteria as far as trying to get them, we're hoping, that they would stay here with Kadlec or stay in the Tri-City area. And it looks more promising in our second year and definitely our third year class, the class that Dr. Sachek's in. I think of those 6 residents, 4 or 5 of them have ties to the area. So the fact that they will stay, there's a greater chance that they'll stay here. But in that first year when we matched, we were just happy that people came here. And so I'm like, it's like, having a party and hoping people show up. We actually didn't even have a building. We had no residents, and we're like, just trust us, come. and they did. And we're really happy with how well they've done. They've all passed their boards, and so they're going to be a great asset to the American public in taking care of patients, but not here specifically at Kadlec yet, unless I can lure them back. That's always my plan. So, other questions? Desi?
The
Yeah.
residency building down on the street down there.
So the new residency building is 940 Northgate. It's directly across from the Richland Library. And it's really the second CBC building, Columbia Basin College Medical Science Building, actually named the Wortman Building after Rand Wortman, our previous CEO, who was a visionary that way. So, yeah.
I'm trying to put the residency program into a little broader setting here.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in the Tri-Cities a number of years now, and one of the first, about 20 years ago, one of my physicians left the area. He had been recruited by Kadlec as a specialist and said he was leaving because he was not supported by Kadlec. They kept bringing in
Other specialists.
other kind of specialists, and now things are moving so that many of my physicians are in the throes of either having to go with Kadlec or go on their own. And I'm wondering then, is this now going to be a possibility for being able to supplant and help support the broad range of physicians in the Tri-Cities?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, because there is this change. When residents train in this area, there's more likelihood that they're going to stay here. And having that consistency then helps with specialist care and everything because those relationships are built. I was in a similar situation before I came here to Kadlec. I had a primary care doc that came, and they were actually with Lourdes. I really liked him and everything, and it just didn't feel right. So once he got his 2 years contracted, then he left and went back to Chicago. And so when we're interviewing and trying to find applicants here, we're hoping that it's a good fit, good match for the entire community and that it'll support that. But they're all free agents and they can go on. But that relationship with the health systems and relationships among their peers with specialists and everything are something that we're focused on right now. But it is challenging when there's that rub between the institution and what the private doc wants. I hope that answers your question, kind of.
It's a big, I know it's a big,
It's a
very
big deal.
question.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Personal matter.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Isaacson is retiring today.
Darn him. I know.
Do, I've got a letter saying something about be assigned a new primary care physician.
Yes.
Can I choose a nurse practitioner as my primary care physician?
Yes. Yes. Yes, you can. So what he said is Dr. Isaacson is retiring today. And I will tell you that he is having the hardest time. He has had the hardest time with this, but it is real. So I think today is the last day that he is seeing patients. He has been in the community seeing patients for 37 years. He says he has cared for 4 generations of patients and families. And one of the great things about him being our inaugural program director is we wanted him to train the next generation of doctors so that they could be like him. We all get to retire at some point, even doctors and hairdressers. My hairdresser retired, that was hard. And so yes, you can be reassigned if you're part of it. You can be reassigned to either someone on his team or a nurse practitioner as well, and that's fine. They have their own patient panels as well.
Is he going to stay as director or just?
He cannot be director. Yeah, he cannot be director. They have to have patient care still to see that. So in transition, Dr. Pyle Gaba, who is family medicine physician, she actually did her residency at Yakima with Yakima, not the Farm Workers Association, but Central Valley. It's part of the University of Washington school. She did her residency there. And her husband is Dr. Ahuja, who's the director for anesthesiology at Kadlec. And so she is wonderful, high regarded, has completed her National Institute for Program Director Development and her fellowship, faculty fellowship at the University of Washington. And she's going to be great. She's been with us the whole time too. So, okay, I just have a couple more slides. So you got the cycle of residency there. Maybe. Oh, we're frozen up because I've been going too long. We'll see. Or we just froze up. The other slides weren't important. What do I do?
I might have to click on the screen, click on the actual.
Okay, there we go. So, key focus areas, thank you. Thanks, Owen, always helpful. We're focusing on faculty recruitment. We want to be competitive with our salary. We want to grow our own faculty, so that's something that we're working to do. We have 2 other faculty members coming on this fall. One is Dr. Kuzis, who has ties here to Walla Walla. And he's coming back from Indiana. And then the other one is Dr. Cadwell Meyer, and she is Marie Cadwell. Her father is John Cadwell of Cadwell Laboratories, and she graduated from the inaugural class from Pacific Northwest University with the osteopathic school, and so we're excited to have her come back. We, of course, want to attract our graduate residents in the hospital, at the clinic, and at the residency center. And then we plan to, this summer, in the next few months, plan to expand to an 888. Now and so instead of having 6 residents a year, we would have 8 residents a year to grow the program. We have to have enough faculty to be able to even request expansion from the ACGME. And so now with Dr. Cadwell Meyer and Dr. Kuzis coming on, we have that, and so we'll be requesting that and then recruiting for 8 residents in 2019. So that's what's our plan right there. And then these are our graduates. Dr. Clark heading to Lewiston, Dr. Johansson heading to Benton City. Dr. Rahman is going to be a hospitalist. He doesn't yet know where he wants to land, and so he's going to do some locum work, so doing hospitalist locum work. Dr. Tahir, he is originally from Georgia, and he was going to be here, but I'm sure he got caught up with patient care. His wife is from Chicago, and they are moving to Indiana, which is kind of midway between her parents and his parents, so he feels pretty good about that. And then Dr. Torba is going to California, and so that's where they're graduating from. If we're still keeping 2 kind of in this Northwest area, we've done pretty good out of the 5, and so that's our inaugural graduating class, and they'll kind of go down in history for being the first. This is what our building looks like right across from the library, and it is the Wortman Medical Center. And these doors, it looks like it should be like the Healthplex, and the 3 doors should open. It's tucked in the corner. You got to go all the way to the wall, but patients just stand there and think we're locked, and we're not. So come over and see us anytime. I'd be happy to give anybody a tour. And there you go. Corey, you have questions?
Why would any, I mean, I love these people, but they have had physicians for a long time, but perhaps
great question, and it's really loaded. There's a lot of, it's okay, it can have a lot of different answers. I know some of the patients that originally came in 2015, a couple in particular that said, oh, I want to be part. I want to help teach these guys so they know how to care for people in the future. And I think I'm a really good case. And I was like, wow, all right. And so we had those patients coming. It's also, I always advocate that each individual needs to be know themselves the best and advocate for themselves. And because we're a teaching facility and we have longer appointments, you have more time to spend than with the doctors and to explore other considerations, and they're always kind of cutting edge. We're testing and quizzing them all the time. They have to do a lot of presentations. And so I know specifically, like Dr. Halverson, he will always be like, I just read this study. And so they're up to the most current date of things, and so are our faculty, because they have to be on their toes and ready for the questions that the residents and even the medical students, because we do have medical students there too, that are there asking, and nurse practitioner students, and pharmacy residents, and we have medical assistant students and nursing students. So we're interprofessional disciplinary team, and you're gonna get really good care that way, but you need to be a good advocate of yourself as well. Another question.
Were there any that started the program 3 years ago that did not complete it
That happens sometimes.
in this first class?
There was, yeah. And there's, so Dr. Isaacson and I started going to the University of Washington Family Medicine Network probably back in 2007, and so we didn't even start the program until 2013 when we got the green light. Long gestation period for a residency program. And I remember listening to the other program directors from across the WWAMI network, and let me just clarify, WWAMI is it's through the University of Washington, because they, up until recently, were the only medical school across 5 states: Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. So WWAMI, that's what WWAMI stands for, not whammy. And I remember hearing and talking to family medicine, because family medicine physicians and individuals tend to be very compassionate and heartfelt. And I remember listening to them and saying that, but gosh, I know how much debt they have, and they're a really nice person, but they haven't been medically safe, and I don't know that I'd want them to care for my grandmother or my child. And so that really stuck with me, that even if somebody was really nice, and even if somebody was really strong medically, but making poor choices professionally, do you want to put them and have that on your responsibility to care for the American public? And would you want them to care for your family members? So it's a tough place to be when you have a lot of compassion for individuals normally, and family medicine does, then to make those tough decisions. But if you've ever been in a coaching situation or a teaching situation, there are times that you have to find that fine line and think, why are we doing this? And it's not to be a nice guy. We want people to care for our loved ones in the future.
So is that both
No.
Can you use this residency program to be your primary care provider?
Yes.
I mean, all the time?
All the time. So the question was, can you use the residency clinic as your primary care provider? And the answer is yes. And that's because, again, give an example. If Dr. Sachek is my physician, then even if he graduates, I would still stay with the same team. I'd still have the same advisor. I think his advisor is Dr. Carlson. And so she would still be overseeing the next generation. I'd see the same medical assistants, the same front desk people. I'd still see the same people, but I may change. The other thing that you can do is a possibility is if Dr. Sachek were to stay here within the Kadlec system or go to his own private practice, you could transfer over and still be with him.
So that would change over to the next class?
It can.
To the next class.
But you would see the same person potentially for 3 years.
For 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and suppose you wanted to enroll in this or something.
Mhm.
So what do you do?
We're accepting new patients. We're like any other clinic.
What do you do?
Yeah, you can call and say, hey, I want to establish care at the residency clinic. And
Is that the clinic, or what is down there?
yeah, this is the clinic. It's also our residency training. So the first floor is all just clinic. We just have patient exam rooms. We see patients, and that's what we do.
So would you get down there and apply for it or something?
Yeah, you don't even apply, you can just call and then we'll get you set up as a new patient to establish care. That's the key words. I'm a new patient that wants to establish care at the residency clinic.
Who do you call that?
942-2516. And I will tell you,
Oh, is that her?
and I'll apologize right now, our phones are a mess. And they're not a mess for any reason other than we have 3 people answering the phones for like the 18 to 20 providers in the back. And so I'm looking at the phone logs, and we, for incoming calls, are close to 6,000 a month. And so we have a new process that was supposed to start next week, but of course it's not. It's the week after, and that'll help alleviate phone calls. Using K-Chart, if you're comfortable with electronic methods, is a good way to communicate as well. But to be an established patient, you'd want to just call and we'll get you in. Leave a message. Leave your date of birth first, and then second, leave the spelling of your first and last name or the name of the patient, because people don't leave that. And a phone number to call you back.
So
A couple more questions.
Are they accepting new
Yes.
patients
Patients?
there?
Yes, we are. We are accepting new patients. Okay? One question back at the back. I thought I saw. Maybe not.
What happens if I come to your clinic and I walk in there and they say, oh, Karen, you got a heart condition?
Right. Then we refer you to a cardiologist. Yeah. Yeah, somewhere within our system or whatever works for your insurance. So you'd want to check within your network. Okay? Dr. Tayab just walked in. Hey, Dr. Tayab, come up here for a minute. And then I know we got to get cut off. I'm sorry, Corey. So this is one more face. We're going to come back over here. Got it. Thank you, Ellen. So this is Dr. Tayab here, and he is one of our graduating residents. I already told you a little bit about him. I already gave the rundown. Here's what I've told them about you. First off, you're amazing and fabulous, but that you are part of our inaugural class. Your hometown was Georgia, and then you are going back to Indiana, and your wife's family is from Chicago. Okay, so far I did pretty good. I know you. So what I've been telling them is just kind of what residency. Okay, sorry. What I've been telling them is what residency is all about, and if you just want to, I don't know if you guys have questions specific for him. I have an interview that I need to leave for, so I could. He's in good hands. Yeah, Corey's your point person here. But if you just want to give a little bit, maybe just say a couple words about why you came to Kadlec for your residency, what you've gained, and hopefully it's been beneficial. So. Speak up.
Alrighty, hi guys. My name is Dr. Tahir, like Amy mentioned. Yeah, so I'm probably going to sound like a company man here for the next few minutes, but so Kadlec, the reason I chose them was because during my interview process, everybody was very helpful, very friendly, very outgoing, and to my pleasure, when I got here, it wasn't just a front. That's how everyone was, and that's what you can expect when you come to our clinic. We try to, in addition to taking care of you, we try to respect your wishes, try to honor what you want done and how you want to proceed with your care, because at the end of the day, it is your body and you're the ones who should be in charge of that. We're just here to help out along the process. As far as the residency clinic goes, we have 3 different classes, first year, second year, and third year. However, each class obviously has their different experience levels, but with each class of resident that you'll see, it'll be supervised by an attending. So technically, you'll be getting care provided by 2 different doctors during the same visit, which I think is a huge benefit and allows us to be more thorough in the level of care that we provide for you guys. And we take care of everybody from newborns all the way up. With that, I don't know if there's any other questions that I can answer or anything else you guys would like to know about us.
She kind of stole your thunder. She gets
Sorry.
great.
Oh, good.
But I'm glad we have another face for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for attending, and thank you, Corey, for having the residency here. We're happy to answer any other questions. Corey has some of my business cards that is not the main line to call. So if you have questions just about how it works or if you're struggling, let us know. And we're here to take care of you and your family. And we're so proud of Dr. Tahir and his counterparts who are all graduating and press boards and going to move on and take care of America. Good job. Big shoulders. Thank you.